In the business world and the hustle culture of YouTube and Instagram and all of that, there is a character named Alex Hormozi. This video is not about Alex Hormozi.
Oh well.
This video is about Michael Girdley.
Oh my god.
Michael Girdley put out a video a day ago that already has over 100,000 views on the rise and fall of CrossFit. The reason I bring up Alex Hormozi is because there's a similarity between him and Michael. I don't know how people believe a word Alex Hormozi has to say, and the reason that I say that is because he lies about whether or not he's used performance-enhancing drugs. Andrew, he said he takes TRT.
It doesn't matter!
Yes, but you don't look like this having taken just TRT. Also, the dude claims to work with all of these hundreds of millions of billions of dollars of companies, and I'm thinking, I make content. I know what it takes when it comes to making content. I know that every human being also just has 24 hours in a day.
Is this true?
There is no way on planet Earth that somebody is going to trust you with their billion-dollar company when they see you making content running around in a green screen suit. Billionaires do not need to trust Alex Hormozi scaling their companies. And even if they did trust him, Alex doesn't have the time. He is a content creator through and through. A performance-enhancing drug using lying content creator. For the longest time, he was telling everybody, I don't make any money on any of this stuff and everything is for free, but I also just made $100 million on my most recent book. And the reason I'm telling you all of this is because Alex is a little bit more popular than Mr. Michael, but they're kind of one and the same. Michael's going to tell you a whole bunch of stuff about the rise and fall of CrossFit, and he's going to do so with a bunch of just false information. And I don't know how after watching a video like this, you could believe a single word that he has to say in any of his videos, because all of his videos are exactly the same. I'm going to let him play and talk a little bit, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm seeing here. Let's do it.
So at its peak, CrossFit was an absolute juggernaut in the world of fitness.
He's already starting off hot. Are you saying that it is no longer a juggernaut in the world of fitness? Because High Rocks is basically CrossFit. I know it doesn't say that it's CrossFit, but they're doing CrossFit. Every lifetime that I've ever been to has an alpha class, which is CrossFit. Most of the boutique studios in the world are all CrossFit gyms at this point, whether or not they have the name stamped on the board. So is it still not a juggernaut?
It had over 15,000 locations, which is more than 3 times the number that its closest competitor had.
Who are the competitors? Orange Theory, F45, is it Planet Fitness, is it Lifetime, is it Gold's Gym? If you're not going to name the competitors, how are you going to make the correlation saying that they're more than 3 times the size of them?
It had title sponsors in the form of Reebok, and millions of people were doing the sport.
Millions of people are not doing the sport. Millions of people were doing CrossFit, but I would say tens of thousands were doing the sport. To the same degree that millions and tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people are likely doing bodybuilding to get bigger biceps so they can look better on the beach. But there are probably only, I don't know, thousands of people who are trying to do the sport of bodybuilding to get on competition prep stage in their little bikinis.
But fast forward just a few years later, the brand is up for sale a second time in 5 years.
Yes, but that's because of private equity, not because of the downfall of the CrossFit thing. It's because private equity buys it and then they sell it. It's what they do. But he's packaging it as something else to us right here.
This is a video that is about the rise and fall of this iconic fitness brand.
And this is what he makes videos on. Every single one of them is on a rise and a fall. What went wrong? What went wrong? What went wrong? What went wrong?
My name's Michael. I record videos that talk about the rise and fall of iconic companies.
And as I look at all of these companies, it looks like things that just kind of came out really hot. Peloton, Prime, GoPro, it's all things that skyrocketed at one point. And I'm also going to guess that there's some sort of correlate behind the COVID pandemic and them tanking. Is that what his whole channel is? Oh, what happened? And is that what happened with CrossFit?
And I use that as a way to explain business. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, do me a favor. I do bi-weekly lectures on the internet. They're free.
Oh, they're free. I wonder if you're going to talk about anything like that anytime in the video soon.
And if you stick around through this whole video, I will explain to you why I'm recording it in front of a building with a for lease sign on it that used to be a former auto garage.
I'll provide you with more information here than Michael is going to provide you in the entire video. I think that CrossFit is likely struggling at the moment because of the amount it costs to rent a place like that. Because when CrossFit was taken off like a spaceship, you could lease anything, anywhere. It was cheap. Wasn't there a housing market crash in 2007? At least in the United States. In present day, it's expensive as hell to rent a place like that. For some reason. Everything's expensive. For some reason. $150 a month to become a member of a CrossFit gym doesn't quite go the same way that it did in 2012. So if you had a spot like that for $3 grand a month, all of a sudden it's $6 grand a month, but no one wants to pay $300 a month to go to a place like that when they could go to a Lifetime. No, Michael doesn't bring up any of that in this video. That's just me.
In fact, to understand the story of CrossFit, you really have to understand the personality of Greg Glassman. He's somebody who is just a natural contrarian. If you say the sky is blue, he's going to tell you it's green.
No, Greg doesn't do that, because that sounds freaking insane. What did you watch about Greg that makes you think that that's the way that he operates? The best way to describe how Greg operates is everyone's talking about the sky and there's a tornado sitting right there. You're not even talking about the clouds in the sky formulating the tornado. There is a tornado, it's coming at you, and you're too busy talking about how the sky is blue. He's not telling you that it's green. He's wondering why you aren't focused on the thread at hand, the tornado.
And the thing about CrossFit is it took everything that existed in fitness at the time and did the exact opposite.
No, it took the things in fitness that people didn't really see or pay much attention to and popularized them, like weightlifting shoes or bumper plates or ropes and rings and the things utilized in gymnastics like grips. Everyone's got a grip company at this point, right? Didn't do it the complete opposite, but it took the things that were there and put them together and made CrossFit out of them, and now everyone does them.
Instead of gyms where you showed up whenever you want, there were set class times.
Like, that's something completely new that CrossFit came up with, like Pilates and yoga and Zumba weren't a thing in the early 2000s.
Instead of long, kind of boring, low-intensity workouts, you did short, high-intensity bursts.
So you put up a workout like Filthy 50, which for a lot of people will take 30 to 40 minutes to complete, and even for the fastest people, they'll have a hard time doing it under 20 minutes. That's not a short burst workout, that's a long workout.
And there was all kinds of other things that they did when they invented CrossFit that was just the opposite of the way everybody else did things.
In the sense that you're not doing 3 sets of 10 on a bench press, sure, yes, I'll give you that one, Michael. That is different. CrossFit was maybe not really doing many 3 sets of 10 on the bench press.
And one thing that they did that was totally the opposite was use basically an open source model to do their workout system and do the CrossFit brand. It was something that they had borrowed from the open source software movement, which is you give away the product for free.
Oh, they're free. I wonder if you're going to talk about anything like that anytime in the video soon. He acts as if he read this in some blog that Greg had written.
It was something that they had borrowed from the open source software movement.
Oh yeah, we're going to use the open source model. And he says it very matter-of-factly, and if you aren't paying attention, you'll think that's actually true. No, they could be similar, but just because they're similar doesn't mean that they were borrowed from. It's a crazy assumption presented as fact.
But early in the 2000s, we reached our lowest church participation in history, where it dropped below 40% in the United States. And for many, you could go and join your tribe at a CrossFit box. They didn't call it a gym, by the way, because that would have been too conventional.
Dude, because churches are now no longer as popular as they once were. Now CrossFit gyms are picking up the slack where the churches left off. Do you know how insane that sounds? Correlation does not cause, I mean, you could draw the parallel with just about anything. Like all of a sudden, pornography sales. Is that why OnlyFans is so popular these days? Because churches are on the decline, OnlyFans sales are on the incline? My insane theory right there, it holds way more water than yours does.
They did it through a licensing model. And basically you would show up, pay for a weekend seminar, go through their training, pass a small test, and then you had the ability to pay CrossFit an annual fee to name your gym and call it a CrossFit gym.
Bro, why you gotta come out there and say that's some small test?
Pass a small test.
Like, I can go get my NSCA cert right now on the internet, my ACSM, my A certification. The only thing that I would need for my CSCS is, an associate's degree at college, which I also have. I got the bachelor part. I got the whole thing. But also in this 25-mile radius that I sit in, there are plenty of gyms out there with people running them that have 0 credentials, because you can do that. So people throwing around the small test of CrossFit when I can take the NSCA test online when the CrossFit one is in person always boggles my freaking brain.
And in the business world, what CrossFit did was take the idea of counter positioning to an extreme. And counter positioning is when your business goes in and takes some fundamental aspect of the other people's businesses, and you just do exactly the opposite and create a business model that they can't compete with. And in the case of everything they did, from the anti-franchise methodology, to the licensing stuff, to the way the exercise worked, to the way the brand worked, it was all just going exactly the opposite of the way everybody had done everything up until that point.
Greg Glassman rolls into the world in the year 2000. We want to create something called CrossFit. Boom, what are we going to do? We're not going to do any isolation movements. We can't do it for the sheer fact that everyone else is doing it. We have to be contrarian. We have to do the opposite. Everything has to be compound. Oh, jogging is very popular in the year 2000. Everyone's seeing a lot of benefit. Oh, we're not going to do any jogging. We've made things as short as and intense as possible. No, Michael, presenting this as fact just for the sheer fact that they're doing it on purpose is not making it factual. You're discrediting everything that it is. Just because you want to say these things on your channel with no evidence to back them up, you're just saying stuff. Where did you get that graph? Who made that graph? Did you make that graph? Graph.
And 13,000 by 2013. And you can do the math. If your average affiliate is paying $3,000 or $4,000 a year times 13,000 gyms, that ends up being 30, 40, 50 million a year in licensing revenue for the chain.
Up until this point, you might be saying, Andrew, well, how is your opinion any different than Michael's? You're just spouting off at a guy who's making a video giving his opinions. And then he gives you this one, showing you the Alex Hormozi nature of him. Yeah, these numbers look good. 52 million, that's crazy. CrossFit gyms have never paid $4,000 a year to be affiliated, ever. Present day is $4,500, and that was only for the past year and a half. And for the longest time, especially up until the time in which he's referencing that there were 13,000 gyms, it was $3,000. But he's also forgetting the grandfather gyms. There were $500 gyms, there were $1,000 gyms. And I think it was the year 2012 where everyone started paying $3,000. So even then, if you were to take the aggregate and the average of the gyms that were actually paying of that $13,000, it was probably more like $1,750. And I'm just completely spitballing that one, but it's a much more accurate spitball than the one Michael threw on the screen here. This just here should discredit and will end up discrediting even more of everything he says on his YouTube channel.
And by 2013, there's no exact measurement of how many members were doing CrossFit at these gyms or doing them outside the gyms, but some estimates went as high as 5 million participants worldwide.
Crazily enough, that's a better number than Don Paul's ever given us.
And validation came with that amount of membership. In 2011, Reebok came calling, and they signed a $150 million 10-year sponsorship deal to become the title sponsor for CrossFit that year.
Yeah, that was pretty great. I got nothing bad to say about this. This was just great. Actually, I can get on my soapbox for a second and use my Liver King example. You know, Liver King, dude that everybody knew, ended up taking steroids, now everybody hates him. The reason everybody knew about him is because he had a lot of money to make himself popular. The same way that Greg Glassman the other day said that Tommy and Sean were only popular because he paid a bunch of money to make them look important and popular.
Sean Woodlick and Tommy Market to stand on them and their show that I, unfair to them, convinced them they had talents they do not have. I can spend enough money that you can think you're really talented. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. And their current work and output, I think, suggests that I was right.
It's something that can be done with media. You throw a bunch of money into the pit and you can make anybody look like a rock star. And Reebok made CrossFit look like a rock star right away with that $150 million. So yeah.
And the brand did something incredible in terms of its competition, the CrossFit Games. You see, people of any sort could enter globally and be part of the competition. And by 2018, 425,000 people that year entered the CrossFit Open. And you just followed the rules. You paid your $50 or whatever it is to enter it.
At some point in this video, this guy goes and says, look, I was a member at that CrossFit gym. You know that red building? That was me.
I went to that gym for over 10 years. I was a member there, and I did over 1,000 hour-long CrossFit classes there over a decade.
I took over 1,000 one-hour classes in that red box. I have a very, very, very hard time believing that when you say that the Open cost $50 to register for. It can go one of two ways. Like either you're completely lying about the amount of time that you spent in the CrossFit gym, or at the very minimum, which is a lot. Like this minimum means a lot to the breadth of this video. How are we going to believe a single thing that you have to say about anything when it comes to CrossFit when you have 1,000 hours in the gym and you don't know how much it costs to sign up for the Open? Couldn't recollect and remember the $20 number? And even if you didn't remember, Andrew, be nice. It may have been a long time since the dude was in a gym. Okay, I get it. Google it. Some sort of research. How much does it cost? $20, and it's always been $20. So thank you, Michael Alex Hormozi Gillibrand.
In 2018, that seemed like the moment that everything was going incredibly right for CrossFit. It seemed like the brand couldn't stop and it couldn't lose. But at that moment, it was when everything started to turn against the company and the brand. And the first thing to go against the brand was it started to gain a reputation as a dangerous exercise methodology.
No. Everyone always thought that it was dangerous from the first day anybody saw anyone doing a muscle up or a snatch. What happened in 2018 is Greg Glassman shut off the media. You don't bring that up ever, but the thing you're saying here is just wrong. It's factually wrong. It didn't just become dangerous out of nowhere for some reason that someone said like you.
And while CrossFit had always kind of fought this idea that CrossFit could be dangerous, the reality was the low barrier entry for these different coaches who would just take a weekend seminar and then suddenly start having people do highly complex barbell movements and stuff like that. You had a wide variety in the quality of instruction that was happening at these different gyms.
And that's the case for any gym anywhere. I mean, it's the case for any business anywhere. Right around the corner, they have an axe throwing gym. Where do you get certified in the case of turning people on how to throw axes across a room? They're taking shots. There are 15 people in locations that they shouldn't be without instructors present. They're just whipping axes for an hour.
And at their size, with 13, 15,000 gyms, even 0.5% of the gyms being unsafe or unhealthy was a pretty high exercise risk in terms of people getting hurt.
Even 0.5?
Even 0.5.
If you're just sitting the video and it's like you're watching the newest John Wick movie and you're like, oh yeah, he definitely can survive all of that. Yeah, Ethan Hunt, while he's doing Mission Impossible Final Recon, he could totally run 10 miles in 20 minutes and not be winded when he has to then fight the bad guy at the end of the miles.
You think?
Yeah, he's the most in shape 63-year-old man on the planet.
You think?
You can just take the stuff that Michael is saying here for face value, or you can think about it for 1 second. If there are 100 Planet Fitnesses in the world, isn't it very likely that there's a 1 in 100 chance that there's a trainer at a Planet Fitness somewhere that's also going to be dangerous? I would bet that 1 out of every 5 trainers that you encounter at a Planet Fitness, a Gold Gym, or a Lifetime has no idea what they're talking about. I know that because I went to school with people who are instructing people on how to move their bodies. So what is he using this 0.5 number for?
The National Strength and Conditioning Association,
Oh my God.
they started to do things and studies about them.
All right, I don't want to get too crazy about this, but CrossFit had this case against them. Went through all of the courts, crazy lawsuits. CrossFit ended up suing the absolute crap of the NSCA, the National Strength Conditioning Association, for creating fraudulent data about injury reports. CrossFit won. They won like crazy, but Michael's going to leave that part out. The NSCA was creating false and fake instances in which CrossFit injuries were occurring. CrossFit proved that they were lying. There were emails about it.
The National Strength and Conditioning Association, they started to do things and studies about them.
But Michael's going to use the NSCA as a point against CrossFit? Are you insane?
And what did CrossFit do? Well, they did some stuff to try to make it safer in the gyms.
And again, Michael's just assuming that they were trying to make things safe, but they've always been safe, making people think it's dangerous. It was never inherently dangerous.
And so concepts like F45 and Orange Theory, who were franchise concepts, they would eventually over the 2010s open thousands of gyms respectively. And I had friends that would go choose those concepts because they saw them as safer than some of the complex movements that would be done at a CrossFit gym. And they were happy.
All right, the dude just showed his hand. That was crazy. He goes from saying they're trying to make it more safe to all of my friends don't want to do CrossFit because it's dangerous. He has all those people just stuck between his ears. Oh, all right. All of my friends think CrossFit is dangerous. People at CrossFit must be trying to do something to make my friends want to do CrossFit, right? No!
And the third thing that started to go against the chain was the success of the licensing model itself. You see, in a normal franchising system, there's a limitation on how many gyms or how many franchises can be opened up. But in the case of CrossFit, there was no limitation. It was simply a licensing model. And the headquarters had no input on how many gyms were to be opened and where.
As an affiliate owner, I can just let you know that this is false. You have to put an application process. You got to go take the level 1. They have to approve your name. They have to approve the fact that you had insurance in order to become an affiliate. It's quite a process, and no, you can't just open one up anywhere.
So you had many situations where a gym would be open, be successful, and then somebody else would come in and open up right across the street. And suddenly, instead of having one very profitable gym, you have 2 gyms and neither one of them is making any money.
You're gonna believe this guy? That this is your business guy? You ever been to a gas station where you look across the street and there's also a gas station? You think that BP started crapping themselves when all of a sudden a Quick Mart opened up across the street? Oh no, our soda revenue's gonna go down. No one's buying any more Slurpees. The Quick Mart, the 7-Eleven opened up across the gas station. Oh no. And you're also assuming that if you're running a good business that people will just leave it because there's another one. They won't. If you have a great 200 people at your CrossFit gym and you're doing everything you can to serve those 200 people, they're not just going to go across the street just because there's another CrossFit gym. You could open up a CrossFit gym called CrossFit Bird, and there could be a bird sitting in the middle of it. Meanwhile, right next door is CrossFit Mayhem. It's like, well, I'm gonna go over to CrossFit Bird just because, it's across the street. This is your business guy.
And lastly, while the spectacle of the CrossFit Games had gotten people really excited about, the competitive sport of fitness and brought people in, it started to do the opposite later on. It got people to associate CrossFit with hardcore exercise and over-the-top endurance and all that kind of stuff you would see on the TV.
He just says both. Without providing any sort of evidence or research or data as to why it changes, he just says it changes. It used to be great, and now all of a sudden it did the opposite for no reason. It just happened. Like, woo,
when in reality, the vast majority of people were very much interested in getting healthier and looking better naked. Well, CrossFit Games were not a good testament for that.
They were, but it used to be. The CrossFit Games used to make people want to be healthy and look good naked, but now it's not? No.
And so this leaves the chain early in 2020 with a polarized image, one where people are kind of scared of the brand.
It's not nothing to do with people being scared or injuries or anything. It likely, if you're going to note 2020, it's the Greg Glassman tweet. That's the thing that put people on their freaking heels.
You've got basically this dichotomy of not really understanding whether they're a fitness brand or a competition brand.
Oddly enough, that's why Greg shut down social media, because people started to think too much about the CrossFit games and not enough about the CrossFit method.
And then you've got, in the worst case, the gyms themselves not doing very well because there's just too damn many of them.
Would you ever say that there's too many hospitals? 8 billion people on the planet, and there's just too many hospitals in this area right here. I think we could cut back on the number of hospitals. There's just too damn many CrossFit affiliates. If you took 1/8 of the global population and said, hey, we're gonna throw 150 people into every CrossFit gym, how many gyms do we need? It would be like 6 or 7 million gyms you need. I know that CrossFit's not for everybody, but I think that 1 out of 8 people, they could find some use and would and should be doing CrossFit. And if there were only 15,000, that's kind of very far away from nearly 7 million gyms.
There's just too damn many of them.
There aren't too damn many of them.
And that left the whole thing really unprepared for what was to come next. And that thing was the COVID pandemic.
Hey guys, I'm just, getting ready for the COVID pandemic. And it's something that I can do as a 33-year-old. I was prepared for. I know that I'm a young buck and I can do burpees all day. But the fact that I can do burpees all day and make this video for you guys just shows that I was prepared. And just like CrossFit businesses, I was just as prepared as anybody for the COVID pandemic.
See, CrossFit was a gym concept built on in-gym participation. And during COVID, it was impossible to go into the gym. And if you can't go in the gym, why are you gonna keep paying money?
Are you gonna say this about bowling alleys? Bowling alleys everywhere were shut down. Bro's got all of these videos on his channel. Is that why Party City went under? Is that why Toys R Us went under? The kids can't play with their toys, they can't have their parties. Do you blame everything on your channel to the COVID pandemic? And if so, why would anyone attend these seminars and why would anyone listen to what you have to say considering all of the information you've already gotten wrong?
Until the next thing came along that nobody was expecting, and that's the 2020 COVID pandemic. And so faced with this kind of stuff, 20% of the affiliates closed their doors during the COVID pandemic.
Just because you got a fancy graphic and cool audio behind it doesn't mean that it's real information. 20% of the gyms closed their doors during the pandemic? Where do you get that number? I would bet a pretty hefty sum of money that even CrossFit HQ does not have this metric. So Michael, where did you get 20% from?
It turned out for them, Zoom workouts just weren't gonna cut it. And with Peloton and Mirror and other concepts like that booming during the 2020 pandemic era, many customers left and they just never came back.
Why is it that Peloton and Mirror and whatever else could freaking function, but CrossFit gyms couldn't? Unfortunately for Michael, I was an affiliate owner during the pandemic. For 1 month, we lost 5% of the members. That was it. We didn't lose anybody else. And then for a couple of more months, we charged half of the membership because, they weren't coming to the gym. But you know what they paid for? Exactly what they were saying that they wouldn't pay for.
It turned out for them, Zoom workouts just weren't gonna cut it.
Alpha at home, 27, 61st Alpha at home. I think I still have a bunch of the videos I made. I made a video every single day where people could follow along with the workout that I was doing with them. And you know what? Kept 95% of my members. So Michael, guess what? You are wrong.
He went online during the whole George Floyd issue and during the whole COVID issue and basically said the exact perfect wrong thing at the time. He basically diminished both of those things at, well, the exact wrong moment. He declared basically both of them to be a hoax and not worth talking about.
I can't argue with that. I think that was probably the wrong thing to say at that time. Did he end up being correct? Yes, he ended up being correct. Did you have to say it at that time? Probably not. Is that what made Greg Greg? Yeah, probably. Did he ever say that it was a hoax? No. Did he infer it? Maybe. Is that what he's talking about? Probably.
And in June 2020, the man whose personality and to some extent personal brand was synonymous with the idea of CrossFit, he was pushed out by the community he had created.
With $200 million. Sounds like he was pushed out, doesn't it?
It was unclear at this time if Eric would be able to save it. A lot of damage had been done, but Eric did his best. Like, he's a good business person.
Eric is not a good businessman.
And he came in and made a lot of good changes to try to rebuild goodwill, try to stabilize things, try to cut costs. And a lot of that helped. It helped stem the bleeding.
Just because you say Eric is a good businessman does not make Eric a good businessman. Eric legitimately, after a couple of months of being the CEO of CrossFit, claimed mental health issues and disappeared for no reason and never to return.
And without Greg Glassman and his polarizing views and personality in the picture, things did stabilize a bit. And in 2022, the affiliate count rose to over 10,800 again. and things didn't look so terrible for the chain.
From what I know, it never dropped under 10,000. I want to know where you got that number of it dropping under 10,000 again. So then to say that it came back up to 10,000 is just false. You're just making false claim after false claim.
And in 2022, Eric departed. It was reported that it was over a disagreement with his fellow investors.
No, he was elevated to a position on the board. He didn't just get kicked away. He had a mental panic attack and was put on a board seat because he couldn't deal with being the CEO or something like that.
And in 2023, the brand kept kind of doing things that would alienate its affiliates. It raised fees, so people who were already kind of struggling to stick on, they would be even struggling even more to continue their affiliation.
100% agree, this was a stupid move. It's a private equity, squeeze the life out of everything you've got move. Oh, you got 10,000 affiliates? As long as you don't lose, I don't know, 6,000 of them, if you charge an extra 50%, we're gonna come out in the black.
A man named Lazar Dukic, he was participating in an open water swim event at the championships, and he drowned and passed away. And initially, his reports are that, CrossFit handled the PR aspect of it pretty poorly. Though I did watch some of it from afar, and frankly, they picked up the pieces after a while and started to do a better job. But in the end, nothing could fix the fact that a competitor at the highest level of fitness was doing CrossFit and passed away.
Yeah, CrossFit handled the PR thing terribly. Don Fall was made out to be an entire liar during all of that, saying that they'd be transparent, they ended up being transparent. Didn't tell you really anything about anything after they had said and promised that they would be. And Don Fall's the poster child for that stuff. The thing that I don't like about what Michael said here is that he died doing CrossFit.
Was doing CrossFit and passed away.
Because people construct their arguments around what will make them look the best. Michael hasn't done this, but it's been done in the past with CrossFit where it's like, oh, just because you're doing deadlifts and handstand push-ups combined doesn't make it CrossFit. Just because you're doing box jumps and pull-ups combined doesn't make it CrossFit. They're just box jumps and pull-ups. But now all of a sudden, because Lazar drowned in a workout that was running and swimming, now he drowned doing CrossFit. Now he was at the CrossFit Games, I understand, and there should have been more lifeguards. Yes, I understand. And if Don Fall and the private equity company didn't suck all of the money at the CrossFit Games, causing there to be less lifeguards on the water, maybe Lazar is still here with us. I understand all of that. But to say that he died doing CrossFit shapes now his vision of CrossFit being on the downfall.
And that is bad if you as CrossFit are trying to find a place in the mass market where lots of people are going to want to come do your very safe, quote unquote, exercise and get healthier.
See, the very safe quote unquote thing. And he's also saying mass market, which again reminds me of his buddies who are going over to do F45 and curves or whatever they're doing, sitting between Michael's ears saying, oh, the thing that you're doing is so dangerous, you're going to get hurt. Just because you've got 2 or 3 friends saying that it's dangerous and you're the one outlier does not mean that it's dangerous. It means that they are soft.
There's a lot of lessons in the CrossFit story. For me, the biggest takeaway is the danger of associating a single brand with a single person. You run so much risk if something goes wrong with that person or they make just one mistake. And in the case of Greg Glassman, he did that and it cost everybody tens of millions of dollars, including him.
So are you saying that Greg could have sold for more? He left tens of millions on the table, so he sold for 200 million, so he could have sold for 210 million? Is that what you're saying?
All right, so what do you think about this? Do you think CrossFit is something worth doing? Do you think it can save itself? What would you have done differently if you owned the brand? Let me know in the comments below.
We always have these comment sections on these videos. It has 1,600 comments at this point in time. It's got 140,000 views. It's wild. And there's always this comment that circa day 2011, 2012, as a physical therapist, I loved CrossFit. They always kept my clinic filled with patients. Ha ha ha. I started CrossFit and it became very apparent that the instructors / leaders had no clue what they were doing when it came to lifting. At first, I just didn't do certain lifts. Then I quit and did something different. And that could very well be true. But like I've said a couple of times in here, it could be true at just about anywhere that you go. You want to go to a Planet Fitness and you want them to teach you how to do the clean and jerk, they might have no idea, but they might still try. I completed my exercise science degree in 1994. I was telling people from day one that this would end in tears. Mastering the Olympic lifts properly takes years of slow and gradual technical physical progressions. As someone with their exercise science degree, I'm going to let you know that this person using that as a point to say anything about anything means nothing. Because I took all of those courses and guess how many Olympic lifts I learned? Nothing! No matter how slow or or gradual, I spent 0 seconds learning any Olympic weightlifting.
Wow.
Certainly nothing that would transfer over to teaching someone in the athletic sphere how to do so. Anybody who wants to like, I went to school and I learned all of this, it's like, you didn't learn crap. You maybe read a book on how to teach somebody how to maybe do something at some point, but even those things are often debunked in a couple of years. The educational system when it comes to strength and conditioning is usually behind by a decade. I do like this comment. 870 likes at the moment. Dude, I had no idea CrossFit was an actual company. I thought it was just an exercise style like Pilates or calisthenics. Just that comment right there with nearly the most amount of likes on it compared to the physical therapy comment means that there is a lot of room to grow for this thing that Michael here is making an entire hit piece on, saying that it's done and dusted. I believe, on the other hand, we have done a very good job showing everybody that it's not. That Michael has no idea what he's talking about, and just like Alex Hormozi, everything that the dude says should be put under a lens and asked whether or not it's indeed true and how much research he did to come to these conclusions. That's all I have to say about any of that. Andrew Hiller out.